Hey, I'm going to do one final Photoshop tutorial, and in this tutorial we're going to make with a diffuse map, a specular and a bump map for flooring. So let's get started. First I'm going to open up my material, and you can do this with any floor texture that you have. And the texture that I'm going to use, you can find at vray-materials.de, and there are plenty of other textures there. So I'm going to use this American cherry thing. This is a diffuse, this is a bump, this is a specular, and this is these two are both speculars, but they are used in the visualization industry, I guess you can call it that. To use two of these, I'm going to have a fall off map, and I'm going to have this in the high and this in the low, and I don't know what it does, but it looks better anyways. That's how you use two specular maps at the same time. So I'm going to open up my American Cherry.png, and oh wait, this wasn't provided by vray-materials.de. I can't recall where this one came from, but it should work with any. This tutorial should work with any floor texture that you have, as long as it is seamless, because if it's not seamless then there is no point. And you can make a seamless texture by going to offset, and to find the values you put in, you divide your width and height by 2, such as in this case 512 by 512, and then you fix any imperfections formed in the center. That's how you make a seamless texture. Now let's start with our bump map. So to start out, we're going to select these lines right here, which are formed by the flooring. And the reason we're going to do this is because there are spaces between what slats are, and currently they won't be noticed much. So to make them stand out, we're going to select them and paint them black for low, and if they were high, they would be white. So keep that in mind. High areas are white, low areas are black. I should fast forward in this section. Anyways, once you've selected all your lines, you're going to paint them black like I said. And after that, you're going to make this black and white, because in most cases there's nothing else that you can do to really make a good bump map. But if you're going to do flooring, if you're going to do flooring or bricks of any type, you must have a very low area to, differentiate between component, as in wood, plank and brick, and tile from tile. If you're interested in creating a metal texture, brush type of metal, I have two different methods uploaded to my videos. Check them out if you're interested. One involves, well, actually both involve using the motion blur effects, which is found up here in filtering, and both give good results, similar to a material that I saw at a retail store, Target to be specific. And one of the materials that I created over in my videos is almost exactly like the table material I saw at Target. Also, as long as I'm talking about other stores, I should also talk about the best computer outlet store. And the best store from my experience, hands down, is Comp USA, which is owned by Tiger Direct. From the only time I've gone to Comp USA, I don't remember what I was purchasing, but immediately all the employees were enticed to greet me at the door and make sure that I found what I wanted. I couldn't get past 2 aisles without having an employee come up to me and asking me if everything was alright. They weren't intrusive. What I'm trying to say is, as soon as I got in there, I didn't even walk 2 aisles before encountering an employee. And when I left, I made sure I gave the manager what I thought of his employees. They were phenomenal, and the experience at CompUSA was incredible. I'll surely shop there again, because first of all, customer service obviously, and second of all, they have good prices and hardware. And now let's talk about the worst customer experience ever. And no one can come close to bad like Fry's Electronic comes to bad. Fry's Electronic is the worst electronics store in terms of customer service. And you will be a fool to buy an insurance policy from them or an extended warranty, and you'd also be a fool not to buy one. You would be a fool to buy one because the extended warranty provided by them only covers the event in which your computer is frying and is having a complete meltdown and is just going off the wall, which will probably not happen. And you would be a fool to not buy an insurance policy from them, because from the customer experience I've received from them, I'm sure your product will go off the wall and start frying. But lucky for me, I've purchased 2 computers from them, 1 laptop, well, 2 laptops and a whole lot of other accessories and junk. And I went to Fry's Electronics because the first laptop had a keyboard issue, and they wanted me to replace the keyboard, $200 up front. Nope, I'm glad working with no Windows key. And the second computer, which is the one I'm using right now, is an HP DV74073NR. That is the exact model. And the computer is great, but if I had thought ahead, I wouldn't have bought this one. Instead, I would have bought a desktop. But anyways, I'm not dissatisfied or satisfied. I'm neutral on this decision. It's done what I've needed it to. It's kicked out renders. It's a great computer overall. Okay, so I'm done selecting all my lines, so now I'm going to paint this black, because these are the low areas. So again, remember, low areas are black and high areas are white. I'm just going to scribble because I'm bound to cover every uncolored area in this thing. And I'm going to give it a second pass just to be sure. And that works as your bump map. For this case, you just have to examine it. This area right here will be higher than this area. But I think because there are a lot of variations in tones, to make this an even better bump map and to not have weird variations, because if I just apply this as my bump map as is, this area will be higher than this area, and this area will be higher than this area, and you're just going to see slats that are higher than other slats. So I could go to image mode, change this to grayscale, discard color information. I'm going to keep this area highlighted. I hit Control Shift I to invert my selection. So instead of having these lines selected, all my wooden planks are now selected. So I can add a blur and then go to Gaussian blur. Okay, Control Shift I again, filter, blur, Gaussian blur. And what my objective is to have some detail but not too much detail, and to try to have less tone variations. And I think this can be fixed by going to contrast. Again, Control Shift I. So as you can see, it's more monotonous. Is that a word? Anyways, point is there's less difference between wooden sections. So overall, all the slats are going to be at the same elevation. And now I can adjust the brightness a little bit to bring out these details. So the key to a good bump map, if you're doing flat surfaces like this, you're going to want little variation, some details but not too much details. And you also want to separate all the elements, as I did by painting black lines. And this overall is an excellent bump map. Now onto the specular map. I'm going to, well, this bump map is too good to pass up, so I'm going to save this because it is incredible. So again, what's incredible about it? Less variation in tone. If you notice the original, dark, medium, light, very light, and this one is more of, it's more of a single tone material, and there's less variation, so overall these are going to be around the same. If I were to use this as a what's it called, a displacement map. If I were to use this as a displacement map with the same displacement value, this would overall be in the same area as this one would overall be in the same area compared to this one, which would have this area lower and this area halfway and this area way above these two. So that's what makes this bump map a very good bump map. And you're welcome to use it as a displacement map with a very low value. The only thing it will do is increase your render time. So whenever you add this to your bump map slot in whatever renderer you are using, be sure to increase the bump map intensity. In 3ds Max, by default the value is 30. Increase it to something like 100, test render it, and if you don't see any bumps, increase it to 300, 400 until you notice the bumps. Now onto the specular map. The specular map is very, very easy, and let me try to select these sections. Well, let me see if it's possible to find my selection. Yes, it is. Okay, so let me hit Control C. And you really do want these lines because it'll make your specular/reflect map more precise in terms of detail and quality. So if you can, just hit Control Z a few times on your recently created bump map if it's still open, and take these lines into your diffuse map and hit Control V. And this is important because these lines that separate the material are not at all reflective. If anything, they're at a depth of 0.125 inches or 0.1 inches, so light gets trapped in there, so they won't be reflective. And again, the Specular map is the same as the bump map, sort of, in which dark is non-reflecting and white is highly reflecting or highly reflective. Anyways, once you have these lines and a different layer, go to your background layer, unlock it, then go to adjustments and color balance. No. Adjustments, black and white. Increase your yellows, decrease your reds. And in this case, remember how I said that you want little variation in tone? In this case, you do want a variation in tone, because if you check out real world materials, you're going to see that whenever light is reflecting off floors, wherever there is a dark plank, you see that there is less reflection. You want some variation, but not too much variation. So for this map, I set it 14 and 1.71. There is some variation between them, but not as much as there is now. So I'm going to leave this at 17 and 171. And for you, the colors that you need to adjust might be different. It all depends on the colors that were in your original material. So let me redo it. So go to adjustments. I did the same mistake twice. Adjustments, black and white. Reduce your red. Increase your yellow. And picture this material in real life if it were reflecting. So this would be a little less reflective than this one. And there is a big difference between these two, so I want to even it out a bit. That looks good. There is some variation, but not a very high variation, which makes this a very good specular map. So now we're going to save this as specular. In any of the following formats, JPEG will lose quality, PNG maintains good quality, and PNG and rendering your 3ds Max scenes in the .png format is, in my opinion, better than the .tga format and is less difficult than the HDR format. So anyways, I'm going to render this out in this as specular.png, and better yet, save it as new specular. So now you should have a diffuse map, which you provided. You created a bump map, and you created a specular map. That's it. Hope you enjoyed. See you.